Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to English. I'm really excited to read to you a speech today by Melinda Gates. It's our text 5. Remember, on our first read through, step 1 is to read and underline anything interesting or important and come up with a life lesson or a learning lesson from Melinda Gates' speech. The second read, for step 2, we're going to identify one literary element and find 2 pieces of evidence that supports that literary element. Let's go ahead and grab our blue sample text at this time, and we're going to be flipping together. Flipping past the directions, past text 1, 2, 3, 4, and landing on text 5. Let's grab those pens and pencils, everybody, and get ready to follow along with text number 5. The following excerpt is from the 2013 Duke University commencement address given by Melinda Gates, co-founder of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Ellipsis. The people who say technology has disconnected you from others are wrong. So are the people who say technology automatically connects you to others. Technology is just a tool. It's a powerful tool, but it's just a tool. Deep human connection is very different. It's not a tool. It's not a means to an end. It is the end, the purpose and the result of a meaningful life. And it will inspire the most amazing acts of love, generosity, and humanity. In his famous speech, Remaining Awake Through a Great Revolution, Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Through our scientific and technological genius, we have made of this world a neighborhood, yet we have not had the ethical commitment to make of it a brotherhood." That's a really interesting quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He's saying technology has made this world a neighborhood. It's brought us closer together, but it hasn't quite made us a brotherhood yet. Let's go back to the text at line 10. What does it mean to make of this world a brotherhood and a sisterhood? That probably sounds like a lot to ask of you as individuals or even as a graduating class. I'm pretty sure none of you will respond to the annoying question, "What are you going to do after graduation?" by saying, "I plan to have the ethical commitment to make of this world a brotherhood." But you can change the way you think about other people. You can choose to see their humanity first, the one big thing that makes them the same as you, instead of the many things that make them different from you. Paul Farmer, the Duke graduate I admire most, is a testament to the deep human connection I'm talking about. As many of you know, Paul, who's here today, is a doctor and a global health innovator. For years, he traveled back and forth from Boston, where he is a professor of medicine, to Haiti, where he ran a health clinic giving the highest quality care to the poorest people in the world. Now he lives mostly in Rwanda, where he's working on changing the country's entire healthcare system. I first met Paul in 2003 when I went to see him in Haiti. It took us forever to walk the 100 yards from our vehicle to the clinic because he introduced me to every single person we met along the way. I'm not exaggerating, every single person. As we moved along, he introduced each person to me by first and last name, wished their families well, and asked for an update about their lives. He hugged people when he greeted them and looked them in the eyes throughout each conversation. If you believe love plays a role in healing, there was healing happening at every step of that journey. Of course, not everybody is Paul Farmer. Not everybody is going to dedicate their whole life to connecting with the poorest people in the world. But just because you don't qualify for sainthood doesn't mean you can't form deep human connections, or that your connections can't make a difference in the world. That's where technology comes in. If you make the moral choice to connect deeply to others, then your computer, your phone, and your tablet make it so much easier to do. Today, there are 7 million cell phone subscribers in Africa. I traveled to Kenya recently and spent a day in Kibera, which many people consider the largest slum in Africa. One image that sticks with me is all the cell phones piled up in a small kiosk or small store where locals paid to recharge their batteries. Most people in Kibera don't have electricity. Even the cell phone charging businesses steal it from the city's power grid. But everywhere I looked, young people were on their phones. And guess what they were doing? Exactly what you do. They were texting. I want to step out of the text for a moment. Can you imagine not having electricity at your house and having to go to a store and pay to have your cell phone plugged in? Those people are really dealing with conflict and adversity and obstacles in their lives. Let's head back to the text. You and they can share your stories directly with each other, with literally billions of people, because you're all using the same technology. Let's flip that page. When my husband, Bill Gates, and I started our foundation, we didn't know much about global health at all. I read the academic literature and talked to experts in the field, but most of what I learned was expressed in morbidity or illness and mortality or death rates, not in flesh and blood. So in 2001, I took my first foundation learning trip to India and Thailand to meet with people and find out what their lives were really like behind the veil of statistics. Late in the afternoon, one of the women who had been showing me around invited me into her home. We went inside and she produced 2 lawn chairs that were hanging from a nail in her kitchen. They were the aluminum folding kind, with the itchy fabric seat you've sat on a million times, quite possibly when you were tenting in Kurizu Skiville. When I was growing up in Dallas, we had the same chairs. On Sunday nights in the summer, my parents and my siblings and I used to set them up on our back patio and gaze up into the sky together as a family. That woman is also dealing with conflict. She doesn't really have a lot of furniture in her house, and that's a problem. That's a conflict. And when she has a guest, has to take down like folding metal chairs from a nail hanging on her wall. That's another way that the people in this passage are dealing with conflict and obstacles and overcoming adversity. Heading back to the text at about line 58. It turned out my host wanted to show me her stunning view of the Himalayas, and as we sat and contemplated the planet's highest peaks, we talked about our children and the future. Our aspirations or our hopes were basically the same. We wanted our children to fulfill their potential. We wanted the love and respect of family and friends. We wanted meaningful work. The biggest difference between us was not what we dreamt about, but how hard it was for her to make her dreams come true. How hard it was for her to make her dreams come true, dealing with all of that conflict in her life. Some people assume that Bill and I are too rich to make a connection with someone who's poor, even if our intentions are good. But adjectives like rich and poor don't define who any of us truly are as human beings. And they don't make one individual less human than the next. The universe is like a computer code in that way, binary. There is life and there is everything else, zeros and ones. I'm a one, you're a one. My friend in the Himalayas is a one. Martin Luther King was not a computer programmer, so he called this concept of brotherhood. His hope was that college students could bring a brotherhood into being. Dr. King thought the world had shrunk as much as it was going to shrink. In his words, we'd dwarf distance and place time in chains. So the fact that people still didn't treat each other like brothers and sisters was to him an ethical failure. I take a slightly different view. I believe we are finally creating the scientific and technological tools to turn the world into a neighborhood. And that gives you an amazing ethical opportunity no one has ever had before. You can light up a network of 7 billion people with long-lasting and highly motivating human connections. I hope you will use the tool of technology to do what you already had it in your heart to do, to connect, to make of this world a brotherhood and a sisterhood. I can't wait to see what it looks like when you do. By Melinda Gates, excerpted and adapted from Melinda Gates' Duke commencement speech in 2013. If you guys look to the bottom of the page, you guys can see this was a passage from the Regents exam in ELA in August 2018. Let's get ready to come back together as a whole group. Thanks, everyone.